Hello everyone, this is Stephanie. Welcome to another video. So today we're going to work on this pendant, and this pendant is using some of the beads from Eureka Crystal Beads' most recent collection called Opulence Echo. Now, I don't know if it's still available. If it is, I'll link it in the description box below the video. If not, all the beads will be linked separately as well. So if you just want to purchase the items that you need for this, you could do that as well. I love this on a ribbon. I love it on a velvet ribbon. A gold chain. There are a lot of beads in the collection where you could make your own chain. There are 6mm fire polish and pearls and such, so you could make a beautiful chain. Here's the back. So it looks like. I think it's so pretty. After I finished the whole thing, I thought, wow, wouldn't it be cool if you like go through your stash and see if you have some drops, and what if you did like a 3, it started here, it did like 3 graduated drops here. Wouldn't that be pretty? I love that idea as well. So lots of things you can do with this. So I'm going to clear this off. We'll get a materials list going and we'll get started on this pendant. Okay, let's get a materials list going. So everything you need to make this pendant is in the Opulence Echo collection, except the way I made it, I added a few gold 11-0 seed beads. All right, so you'll need an 8mm chaton, 3mm pearl, 15-0, 11-0. You can use 2 if you want to add the gold. Nib-bit beads. I put this out because I've already made 4 of them, and to give as Halloween gifts. So I just put 1 out. But you'll need some Nib-bit beads. You'll need a 6mm bugle bead, 4mm faceted crystal. We've got 3x2mm rondelle. A ribbon if you want to put it on a ribbon or a chain, whichever you like. In the collection, they have all kinds of beads that you could actually make a beautiful necklace with. I've got a cushion with all different size beading needles. I think I used an 11 for the entire thing. Fireline, 6-pound stop bead. Let's see right there. So that's everything you need. It will be listed in the description box below the video. Sizes, shapes, colors, you know the drill. Everything you need. Links to the collection if you would like the collection. Links to all the beads and amounts, everything. So don't forget to click the down arrow, the show more, the box will open. All the info will be there. Anything I forgot, any discount codes I might have, any information I want to add. So always check that description box. It's always chock full of good stuff. All right, so let's clear this off and get started. Let's get started. So thread your needle with about 5 feet of thread. Put on a stop bead. Leave about a 18-inch tail, because we'll use that tail to do a bit of the front of the bezel. So I picked up and dropped down to my stop bead, a Nib-bit, and 2 11-0s, and I did that 4 times. I'm going to sew these into a circle by sewing through the first bead after my stop bead, which is that Nib-bit. So just like so. And then I'm going to sew through all the beads again to reinforce. And I'm exiting the bottom hole of one of the Nib-bit beads, just like so. I'm going to sew through the top hole, just like that. Next up, I'm going to pick up an 11-0, a Nib-bit, and an 11-0, and I'm picking it up at the point, just like I did for the first round, and I'm going to sew through the next Nib-bit. 11-0, Nib-bit, 11-0 through the top hole of the next Nib-bit. So I'm just going to repeat that 2 more times. Okay, last 11-0, Nib-bit, 11-0, sewing through this one, and the next Nib-bit, I'm just going to continue all the way around, sewing through all the beads to reinforce. Okay, so I've reinforced all the way around. I've just exited one of the Nib-bits here. We can move this thread later. We're going to take the stop bead off the tail thread and thread our needle, because we're going to use this for the front of the bezel. So you should be exiting a bottom hole of one of the Nib-bits here. I'm just going to sew through the top, on through the 11-0, and through the bottom hole of the next Nib-bit. That's what it looks like. Okay, now I'm exiting the bottom hole of Nib-bit right here. I'm going to sew through the top. Okay, so I'm going to push, so here's my thread, it's coming out right here. I'm just going to push all these Nib-bits here inward. So we have the 4 of them popped in like so. I'm going to pick up a 3mm pearl, exiting this Nib-bit. I'm just going to sew through that next one that I sort of popped up like that, and you can just give it a pull, and they'll sort of pop back a little bit, but you'll get them all popped up. So just like that. So you can do that all the way around. Pick up a pearl, sew through that next popped up Nib-bit, and you can kind of lay your stone in there at any time and add the rest of your pearls. My stone in, and you're going to have to hold this for a while until we have it nice and secure. So just make sure that you're holding it in place as you put on all the beads, and make sure that point is sticking right through the bottom. So last pearl, you see mine popped right out. So I'm going to put it back, and I'm just going to make sure that it's seated properly because it's not tight yet. So you want to make sure it's sitting right there. I can feel the little point in my finger. So just like that, and you can go ahead and reinforce. Okay, I've reinforced all the way around, and I'm exiting a pearl. I'm going to pick up 4 of my 15-ohs. Exiting this pearl, I'm going to sew through this pearl. I'm just going to push those in front a little bit, like so. Do that again, 4 15-ohs. 4 through the next pearl, making sure they sort of pop in there. I'm going to fill that in a little bit, so you can do that 2 more times. Okay, last 4 15-ohs through the pearl. Just going to push those over, make sure that they all pop in front of the little Nib-bit bead there. Give it a little pull. Make sure your stone is nice and straight because we're still not super secure. We're almost there, but we're not super secure yet. So just like that, and then I'm going to advance my needle through the next 4 15-ohs. So you want to be exiting those 4 15-ohs. And I'm sort of pulling it in a little bit to capture the stone. So just like that. Next up, I'm going to pick up 2 15-ohs. Exiting the 4, I'm just going to hop over to the next 4. So we're putting 2 15-ohs in front of the pearl. Like that. And do that again. 2 15-ohs. To the next 4. Just going to place those in front of the pearl. I'm going to give it a little push down and a little pull inward. Do that 2 more times. Yeah, this is what we have so far. So at this point, you can reinforce, you can, if you have thread left over, you can hold it and maybe later use it to tighten something up if something needs tightening up. When I reinforced, I went through the 4 15-ohs, I went through the pearl, through the 4, I skipped these, I just went through the pearl, the 4 15-ohs pearl, and then I kind of went through the Nib-bits a little bit, until it was nice and secure. This is what it looks like so far. We're going to go back to our other thread, so that's the longer thread. Remember, you were exiting the bottom hole of a Nib-bit, one of these here, so right here, you're going to sew through the next 11-oh and the next Nib-bit. Ouch. There we go. So just like that, so you'll be exiting this wide part of the Nib-bit bead. Okay, so we're exiting right here. We're going to pick up a Nib-bit in the wide end like this, and we're just going to sew through the other side of the Nib-bit we're exiting, and you can actually go right on through the next 11-oh, and you just want to make sure that those wide ends meet, and don't worry about any thread showing, we'll take care of it. And then I'm just going to advance my needle through the next Nib-bit. You can just let that sit there through the next 11-oh and the next Nib-bit. Oops, like so. So through the 11-oh and the next Nib-bit. And we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to pick up a Nib-bit. Okay, picking up a Nib-bit, exiting right here the wide end, I'm going to sew through the other side. And right on through the 11-0. And just pop that in place with your finger. And like I said, don't worry about the thread. Everything's going to be covered and it's not going to show. And we're going to advance through the next Nib-bit, like so, through the 11-0 and the next Nib-bit. And if your needle wants to just go past through the next 11-0, I just do it and then I just back out rather than, you know, fighting with it. You could also change your needle size here, but you just want to be exiting, you know, that Nib-bit bead. And then you're just going to repeat what I just did 2 more times. Okay, last Nib-bit, like so. I'm going to advance through the next, the 11-0 and the next. This is what it looks like so far. So I'm exiting that Nib-bit in there. Right here, I'm going to pick up my bugle bead. I'm exiting here. I'm going to sew through the top hole of this bugle, of this Nib-bit. And do that again and pick up another bugle bead. And I'm going to sew through the bottom hole of the next Nib-bit. Kind of lost my place there for a second. There we go. And then I'm going to pick up a bugle bead. I'm going to sew through the top hole of the next one. Do this all the way around. Pick up a bugle. Sew through the bottom hole of this guy. Like so. I'm just going to do that 2 more times. Okay, last bugle through the Nib-bit, like so. And then I'm going to sew right up through that very first bugle I put on. So this is what it looks like so far. I'm going to pick up 2 11-0s, a 3mm pearl, and 2 11-0s. I'm going to sew, I'm exiting this bugle. I'm going to sew down through this one. Then I'm going to pick up a 3mm pearl and I'm going to sew through the next bugle. I'm going to pick up 2 11-0s, a 3mm pearl and 2 11-0s. I'm exiting this bugle. I'm going to sew through this one. I'm going to pick up a pearl. I'm going to sew up through the next bugle bead. Just going to repeat that all the way around. Okay, last pearl through the next bugle, or the last bugle, all the way around, and just make sure you don't get caught. So everybody is in place. This is what it looks like so far. Next up, I'm exiting the bugle. I'm just going to sew through the top hole of this Nib-bit. And then I'm going to sew down through the bugle bead and through this pearl. So you want to be exiting one of the pearls, like right here. Okay, next up, I'm going to pick up a sequence of 2 15-0s, an 11-0, that 4mm round crystal, an 11-0 and 2 15-0s. So this is what it looks like. I'm exiting this pearl. I'm going to sew through this one. Just hold it in place so that it covers, it's going to go right on top of that Nib-bit bead, just like that. Do that again, picking up the 2 15-0s, 11-0, the 4mm crystal, an 11-0 and 2 15-0s. Exiting this pearl, it's going to hop over to this one, just like that. So you're just going to repeat that 2 more times. Last sequence, exiting this pearl. I'm going to sew through this one, making sure that all sits in front like so. And then you can go around and reinforce this round. Okay, we are exiting the purl. So we're going to pick up 3 rondelles, and I'm going to sew through the other side of the purl I'm exiting. And I do apologize if you can hear the leaf blowers outside. Everybody is, you know, doing lawn work. So, and I hear sirens. It's a little crazy in the neighborhood. All right, so I put on those 3 rondelles. I'm actually going to turn it over on this side, and I'm going to sew through the bugle bead. And you can go right on through the 2 11-ohs if you can get them. If not, just go through just the bugle bead and then through the 2 11-ohs. Here we go. I'm just going to turn it to the front now. I'm exiting those 2 11-ohs. I'm going to skip the purl. I'm going to sew down through the next 2 11-ohs and the bugle bead. So just like so. Let me see if I can clear that up a little bit. So I'm exiting the bugle bead, and then I want you to sew right through that next purl. I know it's a little dark in there, but just go through that next purl. So this is what it looks like. Straighten that out a little bit. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to pick up 3 of my rondelles, exiting here. And I'm going to sew the other side of this purl. Attach those rondelles. And I'm going to sew up through the bugle bead and the 2 11-ohs. Did I get one of them? No. So here are the 2 11-ohs. I'm going to skip the purl and go down all the beads again, the 2 11-ohs and the bugle bead. And you can make, you know, try and make that thread go in the back. It'll pull the beads together and it kind of gives you a nice point. Coming down the bugle bead through the next purl. I'm going to repeat that 2 more times. Okay, last 3 rondelles. Coming, exiting in the purl, sewing through the other side of the purl. I'm exiting. And I want you to sew just through the bugle bead. So the next bugle bead, like so, and then through the top hole of that Nib-bit bead. So just like that. So you'd be exiting the top hole of the Nib-bit. Almost there. So I'm going to turn it on the back. Well, before I turn it on the back, I'm going to turn it on the front, and I'm just kind of going to give it a little bit of a push downward so that my Nib-bit beads kind of go back a little bit. And we're going to do some structure on the back. So make sure before you do this that the your piece is the way you want it. Like you want to make sure everybody's straight, give it a little push, a little love. So we're exiting the top hole of this Nib-bit bead. Okay, I'm going to advance right down through the bottom hole of that same Nib-bit. And then I'm going to pick up 4 11-ohs, like so. And I'm going to sew through the bottom hole of this Nib-bit that's right underneath. Like that. I'm going to pick up 4 11-ohs. And I'm going to sew back through the bottom hole of that Nib-bit that I started with, like that. Then I'm going to advance down the 4 I just put on, and then through the bottom hole of the Nib-bit. So I'm just securing those beads, and then through the next 2 11-ohs and the next Nib-bit. And you should be able to get that, just give it a little, bend over and just get your needle through there. You can change your needle size. It's a little tight fit, but it's definitely doable. I've done it like 4 times already, so you should be able to get that in there. So now we're exiting the bottom hole of this Nib-bit here, picking up 4 of the 11-ohs, sewing through the bottom hole of the Nib-bit that's on top of it, and then through the bottom hole again here. Give that a pull. See how that's going to give me just a little bit of structure. And then fight your way through. It's not really a fight. See, it's going through. You know, we're just angles. It's all angles, getting the angles right so that you can, you know, put beads in places that you wouldn't think would fit. So we're going to pick up, we're exiting here, picking up 4 of our 11-ohs. Sew through the bottom hole of that Nib-bit. 4 11-ohs through this one. Just like that. Work your way through these two and this one, do the same thing in the next Nib-bit. And that went through really easy. So we're exiting here now, picking up the 4 11-ohs. This is our last one we're going to embellish. Just like so. And if you can, you know, work your way through the next one. If you're having trouble getting through, and I say, you know, don't fight it at this point because you have a lot of beads on, just go back up these 4, like that, through this one, you know, and then again, and I think that's absolutely fine. And that gives us just a little, and give it a pull, that gives us a little bit of structure on the back, looks better. I mean, you know, I always like the back to look decent, as well as the front. So there we go. This is what it looks like on the front. So you're going to just sew that thread in, and then we will add a bail. I'm going to be exiting these 2 11-ohs right here, you know, on any one of the points. So I'm going to, so this is where you'll be starting out. Okay, I'm going to pick up 4 11-ohs. Oh, I think I'll just work on the back at the moment. And I'm going to sew through these 2. It's just coming over from the two we came out of over there, or adding 2 on, and I want them to be behind the purl, just like that. And then I want to get back over this way, so I'm going to pick up 4 15-ohs, and I'm going to sew. I'm just going to bring them across here, and I'm going to sew through these 2 11-ohs. So it's just sort of a pass through, like that, and then up through the next 2 11-ohs. So just like that. Looks a little wonky right now. Okay, this is what it looks like so far. So just, you know, hold your tail. That's why it looks a little loose. So you want to, you know, hold on to your tail while you're working. So we're exiting this 11-oh right here. And you want to make sure the purl is like in front. We're going to pick up 2 11-ohs. I'm going to sew down through this one. It's putting on your first herringbone stitch, like that, and then up these 2. And that's the start of your herringbone. Picking up 2 11-ohs, down 1, up 2. Like so. So you're just going to keep doing that until you have the length that you want, and that's just going to be determined by what you're going to put on this. So you're going to put on a chain, or you're going to put on a, you know, a thinner chain, a thicker chain, or you're going to put on a ribbon. So you just want to make sure, you know, when you attach the herringbone to the other side, that, you know, whatever you're putting it on will go through. So just like that. Okay, so I have a length of herringbone on. I did about 15 herringbone stitches, you know, after the bail, after the where the purl is. So starting about here. I'm not sure what I want to put this on right now. If I had a really good neck, I would wear this as a choker, but it won't work with my neck. So let's just attach on the back. I'll figure out what to do with it after. You have beads actually in the collection. The 6mm fire polish and some of the pearls. You can make a beautiful chain with that as well. So here I'm exiting top of my herringbone. I'm going to pick up an 11-oh, and I'm just going to sew through the 4 15-ohs that I put on the back. Just going to make that kind of come down like so. And then I'm going to pick up an 11-0 and I'm going to sew through the other side of my herringbone, going up this way, just to attach. That's going to attach it to the back. And then I would, you know, come back around and just really tighten this up really well. And then you will have your bail attached. So get that done, come back and we will finish up. Okay, just a note when you're attaching the bail. So let's say you put everything on, you're coming through these 4 15-0s. I generally go up and back through the entire bail again, stopping about here, then I turn around like these here, so I'm coming out here, turn around here, come back all the way around. And at this point, you can come back through these, or you can go actually through the Nib-bit here, and then just, you know, use your Nib-bit to really secure everything, and then put a knot in. So if you like, you can do that, and I think it's just going to make it a little more secure. Okay, we're back and we're done, and I love how it came out. And my favorite way to wear this would be on a ribbon as a choker. I think that would just be so pretty. I mean, I think. So I'm trying to think, because, you know, I'm not crazy about my neck. Maybe I would wear like a turtleneck that's pretty tight to my neck and then put this around the turtleneck, because that way, you know, I think, you know, I'd feel more comfortable wearing it as a choker. But I love it just like this, or maybe with a, what about a red velvet ribbon? That would be cool. Or I pulled out some of the beads from the collection, just string on a wire, on some wire, like fine soft flex wire, some beads, and you can make a beautiful, beautiful necklace out of this as well. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you make it and post it on Facebook. It's a bit of a challenge, but I think it's worth it. I think it's like really pretty. It doesn't have to be just for Halloween, but you know, I think it would be really pretty. Just with maybe on a pearl necklace, you know, a chain of pearls, and that would be less Halloween looking, but with the black and the purple and these, you know, beautiful reds and these rondelles, I think it really looks very, you know, Halloween-esque. All right, so take care, and I'll see you next time. Bye.